Hello, team marketing. Guess who just finished the webinar 10 minutes ago and realized that I didn't record it because I was too nervous beforehand and I forgot. So I'm just doing it straight away again now. 10 minutes later, this is it. But my point for explaining that is that if you are rewatching it for any reason and it feels a little bit different, that's why, because it is different and I didn't want to confuse anyone. Right, let me share my screen. Hopefully that is going to show the right thing. There was no one here for me to check with. So yeah, today we are talking about SEO and AI in Q2 of 2026 and beyond. So I'm Lisa. I run 18A Productions. We're a web development company based just outside Bristol. We're by Bristol Airport. We've been going 19 years this year. And our kind of USP is that we can code whatever you want from scratch. That's always been our thing. But that's not to say, when I say that we're technical, that kind of accidentally gives the impression that we're not also creative, but we do design in-house. But it also just means that we are called on by a lot of design agencies to build their technical things, or something they've had a lovely idea for, but they can't quite do it themselves, or they can do some stuff and this is just a bit too big, or something's getting a bit too big to manage. That's when we step in, because we can also help with like working out the best hosting for big busy sites and things like that. So yeah, that is us. Yeah, I've lost my flow now doing this again. It's not going to be smooth. I hope it'll be all right. Oh yeah, that's the thing. One thing about us is that we always do what we say we're going to do. We've worked with people for years and actually decades, and the reason is we don't overpromise and underdeliver. We always deliver on what we say we will. We're very, very communicative. It's so important on a web project. Very capable. Things always run smoothly, and so that is why I've got to really be careful I don't under-deliver on an overpromise, because today's talk has got to include everything under the sun in an hour. The last one did overrun by 5 minutes. Let's see if this time I can get it in the right amount of time. We've got a lot to talk about. So how to optimize your business for AI. So I've been teaching AI for teaching SEO, for almost 20 years. I've been carrying out SEO for 24 years. Someone came at me on TikTok the other day saying that SEO hasn't been around for 24 years, but other people are saying it totally has. Google has been around for longer than that, and trying to get up in Google has been always the thing. So the last summer, a bit earlier than last summer, the alarmist in me was like, oh my God, it's all going, it's all changing, it's all going to like not exist anymore. And then actually I looked into it all, and because one of our clients gets over 1 million visitors a day, 2.5 million visitors some days, they've done that because we've worked with them for over a decade and everything is in place. All their technical SEO is top notch and stayed on top of. We keep on top of everything as it comes along, and it's all what robots want and need. So really, what AI wants now is largely just an evolving of what was always been good practice anyway. There is different ways you structure things, and we'll go into all of those, but it is still just content for machines, information for machines, technology for machines. So if you've been doing your SEO, technical SEO, to a really top-notch grade all along, it might not feel that big and different to you. So I said, I thought it would be a good idea to Glenda a couple of weeks ago to just throw in that we'd add the Google March update to this talk. So that's why there's more to say than ever. But I'm not going to do that in like a separate section. We're going to mention that all the way through as we go, because it kind of fits into all sorts of different things we're talking about. But the March update, some people felt it hasn't made much difference. But other research shows it made a massive difference, with people saying that 80% of the top 3 results have shifted. So that's a lot. 80% of all the search terms that you can think of, that top 3 changed. But this one I think is even bigger. 1 in 4 of the top 10 pages fell out of the top 100. So if you were on page 10, which admittedly might not be the first page anymore, but if you were in the top 10 positions, you were in the top 10 results, which might not be first page anymore, but you're still in the top 10 and you're happy with that. And then this change happened and you have fallen out of the top 100. You're invisible, aren't you? You're gone. So for those people, this was a massive update. So back to basics of what we need for SEO. Link backs. I'm sure everyone who has done any SEO has done the soul destroying job of trying to build link backs because it is just so long-winded and dull and boring. And it is, when you're trying to get people to link to you, the idea is it's supposed to be organic. When the internet started, someone had a website and they think, oh, I like this website, so they link to it because that's a useful website, I'll link to it. And Google are just trying to lean into that and use that as a way of monitoring what is good around the web by judging link backs. If you get link backs from high authority sites, they are better for you. Link backs from low spammy sites do you no favors, can actually do you harm. So you want the link backs from the good newspapers, you want the link back from the BBC, you want the link back from the industry blog that everyone reads, you want all these good link backs. But thankfully, one good thing about AI is that it doesn't need link backs. It wants citations. Google has always wanted to have another way of knowing how good someone was. And it had to just rely on link backs. And one of the things it did try was Google Plus. Do you remember their LinkedIn that they had for 5 minutes? I want to say a couple of years, but it's probably quite a while that it was up and running. They tried that because it was going to let them really get to know people and get to know who are the experts and get to know what people's skill sets were, and it just didn't really work for them, so they pulled that. But they're still trying to find out about people, which we'll talk more about in a moment. But AI can do that more. It doesn't need the links, it doesn't just need to count links, it can look for citations. So in the checklist I'll send you at the end, there is a link to an article I've written where you can get examples of free websites you can sign up to receive journalist requests. So it's like Help a Reporter Out and other ones like that. If you've got a PR company, great, lean in on them. If you haven't got a PR company or you do your own PR, then definitely read this list, because I've used it and I've gotten a link back from the Metro this year and stuff, and other link backs. I'm talking about link backs when I've just said you don't need link backs, you need citations. I did that on the first call as well. But I was just lucky that the citations I got also gave me a link back. You don't need the link back, which is great, because otherwise you'd get quoted by the BBC. And be so excited and be like, oh, I wish they linked to my website. Well, they put a typo in it. So it went to a 404, and there was just no, at least it was still a redirect link to your website. But if it was just wrong, then it was just gutting, because you wanted that link back to count. But now the citation is enough that AI can just say, oh, they're mentioned on that blog, and they're mentioned on that, they were on that podcast, and they were on that newsletter. Then yeah, this person knows what this company knows what they're talking about. So the next thing is social media. I would love, maybe one day the time will come where I can do a talk and say, you don't need to worry about social media anymore. You don't need that time drain on your life of making posts for Instagram, because yeah, you just need to write some good blog posts. But I'm afraid that time is not now. AI is apparently interested in engagement across socials. It's interested in chatter about you. It's interested in knowing that people are talking about you and it's alive and buzzy. So you do need to be active on social media, I'm afraid. Omnipresent is the word we need to think about for SEO in 2026. You need to be omnipresent. You need to be everywhere that you can be. That includes Reddit. If you haven't done much about Reddit, there's a link to an article in the checklist about Reddit. That I'll send you afterwards. I'll send you all these slides over. And Reddit is kind of seen by some people as like the swamp of the internet. But it's also my phrase. I'm not quoting anyone. So no, I don't mean to cause any offense. But yeah, swamp of the internet. But also, every big place has its good patches and its dodgy patches, doesn't it? So you just got to find the good patches, and you've got to show up there if you can. Build it into your the time you allow for your social media posting, or get your social media person on it, chatting about you, showing up, just referencing you. Cannot be salesy on Reddit. You will get banned from the subreddits. That's like the little groups, but the blog post explains what Reddit is and how it works. Reddit, the reason Reddit is talked about so much is because ChatGPT did a deal with them in 2024 to use a lot of their information. So a lot of what is cited, a lot of influence about what ChatGPT, for example, chooses to cite is based on what it finds on Reddit. In order of importance, the social media sites that I've read about are Reddit, well, maybe not quite in order. I think, well, Reddit is top, but then I think it was LinkedIn and then Pinterest. Instagram, Facebook is quite locked down, really. Instagram, not so much, but the chatter is still good there. But yeah, LinkedIn and Reddit, try and be all over those. On the topic of Instagram, though, I googled something the other day and about something I was looking at, and it's something I've talked about before. So my Instagram came up in Google, so that was good. But the point is, make sure that your Instagram is open to robots, because it didn't used to be a thing. Google didn't used to be able to go into Instagram, but it can now, as long as you've got that turned on. So make sure that you have opened your Insta to search engines. Research and results. 99.99% of people love stats, I expect. My point is that AI does. It loves tables of data. It loves graphs. So if you can do your own research, any market research you can do, and talk about on LinkedIn, because I appreciate it wouldn't necessarily be right for something in the meeting tab. Oh yeah, stay in the call. I'm the only one here. I know I'm the only one here. It's intentional. Yeah, if you can do any research and put it on your LinkedIn or on a company blog or anything like that, then do that, because the thing is, AI wants to give the right answer. It always wants to give a really good answer, and if it can back that up with stats and figures, then it feels like that is proof that it is giving a good answer. Now, structured data. Structured data is super important. It's always been important for SEO, and it is just getting all the more important now that there are more machines and different forms of machines looking at things. Structured data is telling a robot, hey, this is clearly this is a review, this is a recipe, this is an event, this means this. It's just spelling it out, so there's no ambiguity. When this was a big study last year that was done into how AI was finding things, and it was said that one step in the framework, because they put together this massive framework, but it's sort of like pretty much covered here, emphasizes using schema markup and structured data on content, a tactic we might have considered optional before, but in our experiment, it proved critical for signaling AI algorithms. So that's my key thing there, is that it's a tactic we might have considered optional before, and we only did it for the big clients. But in our experiment, it proved critical for signaling AI algorithms. Now, I don't normally show code, but I think that this is important this time. So this is something you might have written on your website for a human to read. Next Monday, we're holding our annual Christmas party. It's at 7 o'clock at the Avon Gorge Hotel, and tickets are £5. Right. A human reading that, they might know what date you sent it out. So they might know which Monday you mean. And they would probably know that you don't mean 7 o'clock in the morning for a Christmas party, probably. So they might know that meant 7 p.m. But an AI can't be 100% sure on either of those things. So whilst you want that on the front end, you want that to show to people, you wouldn't, in reality, it's not a good, it's just an example, behind the scenes. So that's the thing about structured data. Your visitors do not see it. It's behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, you'd have what's in this little grey box. So you can see there, it says type event, name Christmas party, start date, and then you've got the timestamp with the date and the time in it. End date conservatively stops at 11 o'clock, fine. And then it says ticket, price £5, and you can put your currency and stuff in. You could put stock if availability is marked as in stock because there are tickets available. So that goes behind the scenes, and that just lets Google as well as AI know about it. And when you see Google sort of pull back cinema times or pull back information from a website, like how many star reviews and things, and it's not sending you to the website, it's just pulling the information about cinema times out and you haven't been to the Odeon yet, that's because it's using their structured data to show their information. And when Google started doing this, like over a decade ago, it obviously started people worrying that if they use structured data, they're going to get less clicks. But the idea is still, if someone's interested, they'll click through to you. And then that's so this whole no click thing, which is a problem now, has been going on for a while. It's going to another level now. So yeah, Google has been using structured data for a long time, but now it's really, really important. Now, if you can code, you can add structured data yourself using schema.org. You don't just like make up any of those little terms. You want like stock and price and currency. Schema.org is the definitive list, if you like, of what you can mark up, and you use those things to mark it up. So a developer can do it, or you can do it and you can put it in your site, but you've got to put it in the right place so that it doesn't show to people. And I want to be very clear that the best place to put it is on your website. But I've taught SEO for nearly 20 years, and I always like to teach people things that they can do themselves and how they can do things on their website. Now, structured data is the one thing that repeatedly they can't really do themselves, and they pay for the SEO training, but they haven't got an on-call developer, they haven't got someone that they use a lot, they haven't got like ongoing website budget. So when last year it became apparent that structured data was more important than ever, I was like, right, what can we do that lets people who can't code and don't want to pay a coder to do it put structured data on their website? Because you can do a bit with Yoast, but not quite the right categories, not quite those right tags for everything that AI wants. Yoast will do if it's a blog post and stuff like that, but there are certain ones that you want for AI. So we made AI profiles, and on AI profiles, you go there, you fill in a form, you fill in all your information, and it generates you a page that's like a LinkedIn profile, if you like. It looks fine, it's neatly laid out with the information you entered in the form, but that's not important. We don't care how that looks. It looks nice, and it just doesn't even need to exist. It doesn't need to show, but it does so that you feel like you've got something. What is important is that behind the scenes of that page is all the structured data and all the JSON and all the LMMS.text, but we'll talk about that in a minute. All that stuff is there, and you change it by just logging in and changing what's in the form, the same as you would update your LinkedIn profile or whatever. So I want to stress, though, that it's more ideal to have it on your website. AI profiles is what you do if you can't have it on your website, or it's just not feasible, or it's going to be a long way off and you just want to hit the ground running with something now. Then you just do AI profiles and then link to your AI profile from your website. So we've got ways of like telling AI robots that AI profiles exist, but it sort of seals that trust element if it's your official website is linking to your AI profile, because the robots know, right, that this really is them. This is just saying that for transparency, it is my thing that I'm here talking about. There's a code here, AI checklist -TW, to get it for £24 a year, which is 60% off, locked in forever, however many times you're in you. But I'm going to email around after the last webinar, which is probably going around like now, a code to get it for £20 a year, so it's even less. So, but that will only be valid for like a couple of days. So you'll get that code by now. But if you miss that code, then this is what you can use the rest of the time. Something that we have added to AI profiles, though, because the thing with AI profiles is we're obviously staying up to date with what AI wants, and we update our tools as things evolve. So if you take an AI profile out today, you'll still benefit from things that are added as they're added, and you can come back and update any new bits you need to update or whatever. Excuse me. But the things we've added in light of Google's March updates to really leaning into stuff, we already had skills on there. We already had same as, actually, but we've added knows about. So there's a picture of me from this morning with my little weird sideways smile that I can't not unsee. There's another picture coming up where it's really bad. Where else you appear? So same as is saying, this is me on my LinkedIn. This is me on my Instagram. This is me blogging on 18A's blog. This is me blogging on Site Vital's blog. This is all links to the same person. So that is just like, this is a knowledge web of this is the same person. This is letting AI see, oh yeah, she writes over there. Oh yeah, she does that over there. Okay, cool. She does know her stuff. What you know about is knows about. So that's what I put in the teal boxes: project management, solutions architecture, SEO, digital strategy. Something I missed out, actually, of what we do. We do a lot of like fractional technical director stuff. We can help on just like a small project thing that's like consultancy and strategy and stuff. So yeah, I might have missed out the first one as well. So what you know about and what you can do, so skills. So it often, you kind of need to think carefully about whether knows about and skills, what makes them different. I don't think it would really hurt if you put the same thing in both. But for example, a skill, I've got copywriting, public speaking, or knows about, I've got WordPress and UX. Because you wouldn't put, UX isn't a skill, it is something you do, but it's not like UX as a skill, like it's just not a verb, or it's just not quite the right thing. So yeah, so all those things are in AI profiles, and you might decide, regardless of your company, knows about tends to be a person thing. Skills and same as can be for the company as well. Knows about you generally just do for people. You might decide watching this that you actually want an AI profile about you, and you're just linked to it from your LinkedIn, and you haven't got a website. This isn't about your job. This is just about you as an individual building like your online CV, if you like. LMMS.text file is a text file that's a new initiative. It's just a simple little script that your developer puts together for you. It's not really a script in that sense. It's just a script sort of suggests it does something. This is just sort of sits there with information about you for LLMs, AI, when they come to you. You just put some basic information in there. If anyone hasn't got one, because I kind of hope you have kind of by now, but if you haven't, then drop me an email and I can point you in the right direction of what you need to put in it. Or if you set up an AI profile, it will give you one anyway. And then you might decide once you've got one, you just copy it and put it on your website because you've got it from AI profiles in the first place. Yeah, and also we've got a site check coming up that like checks that if you have got one, it's formatted properly. Some people say they're not super important yet, but no one thinks there's any harm to them, and Google use them for its own things. So if there's no harm to it and it's not a big deal and you can get it for 20 quid if you do it on AI profiles, then I would just do it. We definitely do it for our clients and for us. Site speed. So this is another slightly technical one, which is all about performance. Now, site speed has always been important. You've probably heard about Core Web Vitals and web called page speed insights and all those things, and making sure that your site is fast, because Google cannot be bothered to hang around, AI cannot be bothered to hang around because it is apparently very expensive. People can't be bothered to hang around because people have no attention spans anymore. So everything needs to be super fast. And I feel like I'm talking super fast as well, sorry. So yeah, your website needs to be speedy. And now that is something that has changed with the March update, is that Google has changed the threshold as to what it counts as fast. And now it's got to be even faster than it did before March. So if you haven't checked your site speed for a while and you are feeling like you're okay, do go and check it again. I'll give you a link to a tool where you can check it. So one of the biggest things you can do to help with site speed is to make sure your images aren't bigger than they need to be. So if you ever see a picture and it loads like in a chuggy way like that, it's because you're loading like a 6,000 pixel wide picture into like an 800 pixel spot, and it's just too big. And that's one of the easiest things you can do. And in Site Vitals, actually, so Site Vitals is a tool we've made, and it keeps an eye on all sorts of your website. I'll talk about it in a minute. But one of the things there is that if it finds a picture's too big, it looks at what size it should be, and it gives you the resized one, so you can download it and put it in your website, so it's just there. So yeah, use the link there, use the free tool link there to check your site speed and if you are okay for Google. Site speed this is not quite a tangent I went off on the last call, but we do a lot of speed optimization work. People will come to us just with a website they've had built elsewhere, just asking us to do some speed optimization work on it. And it's tricky. You've got to know what the problem is. You've got to work out what is making it slow. And if there's something on the website, you then weigh up whether you should fix that thing on the website or if you should buy bigger hosting. Now, but you need to know what you're dealing with, because sometimes whatever's happening on the website that's making it slow will actually just grow to fit whatever container it's in. So if you put it in a bigger container, it's just going to grow. The problem's going to be bigger. So that's no good. If you find it's something that's not going to grow bigger, but it would be expensive to fix, then you might decide just get bigger hosting. Or if you find actually the website is all fine, but the hosting is rubbish, then you upgrade your hosting. But what you don't want to do is just throw more and more money at hosting when actually there's a fix on the website. If someone just changed that thing on the website, it would be okay. So you just need someone to understand the whole picture and look across all of it. Site availability is also really important, because obviously Google won't keep coming to you to look at your updates, and it won't send people to you if it thinks you're flaky and you're often not there. And AI is the same, and people are very much the same, not to mention the fact that people can't buy from you or book with you if you're just not online. So our tool Site Vitals, one of the things it does is free uptime monitoring. If you pay for other features, you get more often site monitoring, but it will still check you regularly through the day on the free plan. So, and we do have people tell us like, wow, we didn't know that our site was dipping in and out, and actually we found this issue and now we fixed that issue because, yeah, we were just dipping in and out and they didn't know. It does surprise me how often people don't have uptime monitoring, because there are lots of services for uptime monitoring. Obviously, I think you should use Site Vitals. because we do lots of other stuff and the other ones don't do all the other stuff. But yeah, because there are other ones out there, it's surprising me when people haven't got it. But yeah, so you need to know that your website is up. So we've been talking about how getting found by AI is just because of there's this technical SEO resurgence. It's all making things for the machines. I did a picture, it would be better than this picture, on LinkedIn of me serving a meal in a restaurant to a robot. On the menus board it said feed the machine, because that's kind of what we're doing. We are feeding the machine. And so this is my cringy little sales pitch, I'm afraid. So we've made this tool, Site Vitals, and it's based on 20 years of, well, more than 20 years of making websites for clients and knowing the sorts of things that go wrong, the gotchas, the things that catch people out, the things that happen because you haven't got a full-time developer, or the things that happen because you've got a full-time developer but they're really busy doing other full-time stuff, and the stuff that causes the big issues. And we put it all into this tool that monitors everything for you, keeps an eye on it for you, and then alerts you when there's an emergency so you can act on it quickly, or tells you when there's something starting to drift. And we're working on something as well, which will give you like an email every Monday that says, this is what you need to prioritize this week, because, and we're hooking it up with Google Search Console, so we can say that this is starting to impact this. It wasn't a big deal last week, you get away with it, but now that this is starting to do this, so there's a lot of intelligence there as well going on. And it's just building up this really good picture of your site's health so you can stay on top of it. And this is where I ask people, in-house marketers on the call, to close their ears, because this bit is just for agencies. Agencies, we built it so that clients could have an easier time of running their website when they're not paying an agency to be on it full time. What we've actually found is that there's always more you can do on a website, and it surfaces a lot of stuff. And so actually for an agency, it's actually a job builder, because you are, and not only that, not only is it suggesting stuff the client needs to do, it's also showing how super proactive you are, because you're the one saying, look, before this hits the fan, I wanted to make the title tag before the emoji of poo hits the fan. Claude and ChatGPT taught me out of it. But it's that feeling, you know, you can get in there early, agencies, if you're watching your client sites. Oh, I didn't say about prices in the other one, but for an agency, it's like if you just put the client's homepage in it, because it's by pages, but if you just did the homepage, so you were monitoring each one a little bit, it's like 156 a website a month. So 186 per client per month if you're just doing their homepage. Am I talking rubbish? Am I getting a bit blurry-eyed now? Blurry mouth. 1 something a month. Which, let's face it, if there's anything that it finds, you're going to charge them more than £2 to put it right. So yeah, agencies, take a look. A site issue caught earlier, the 5-minute fix. The same issue discovered by a customer, a client, or your boss is a very different kind of afternoon. And you feel it in your knees and you feel it in your tummy. And every recommendation that it makes is based on this continuous timeline of your entire portfolio. So this is for agencies. If you've got a big portfolio, or if the client has just got a couple of sites, we've just got one site, it's everything that's happened. So you often, in our job, we're detectives. We are thinking, right, that's gone wrong, but what happened in the run-up to make that go wrong? Well, now you've got it all plotted out, and you can add to this timeline yourself as well. Because again, this just comes from something I've wanted clients to be able to do for ages. So-and-so went and made a voucher code and changed some settings on the subscription whilst they did it. And now 2 days later, we find Woo hasn't done blah, blah, blah. Right, then if it's all plotted on the timeline and the site is constantly looking at stuff and telling you about stuff that is shifting, it's all on the timeline, it takes out a massive chunk of the work involved with diagnosing what a problem is. And these are the sorts of things that it helps with. It's so when we were looking after Cozy Club's websites, we hadn't built them, we were just helping them scale. And when they emailed us to say the site had gone down and it hadn't triggered the uptime monitoring, we had it on it at the time. We're like, oh, that's odd, it didn't seem to be down, and it wasn't down. What had happened was it had been built to call on a third-party script, which is quite normal, but they had exceeded their use of font, a third-party font. They had exceeded their usage of the font, so the font had stopped working, and it had broken the whole site and made it look like there was no style sheet. So no design or anything, just a broken looking page. To the customers reporting it to Cozy Club, that looked like the site was broken. So we fixed it. We were like 15 minutes between us getting the alarm and me telling them that it was all fixed. We fixed it quickly once we knew, but it would have been nice if it hadn't been the customer that found that and said to them. So So this is what that's one of the things we check for, is like the third-party assets. Like if you're a while ago, someone their homepage had a 500 error because the Instagram widget broke because of a server tweak that the Instagram widget didn't like. Tiny little things that really screw stuff up. Another two examples. One is that in December, a client site went down, and I happened to catch sight of the uptime monitoring. They only had like basic uptime, and I was like, okay, fine, it'll come back in a minute, and it didn't. So I looked into it, and I was like, and 20 plus years of experience, I knew pretty soon their domain had expired, and that was not what I wanted to see on a Saturday night in December. And yeah, they had their credit card had expired, who they had on file with the domain company. The domain company had sent them an email about it, but it had gone to an inbox that no one there checked anymore, and the domain had expired. And they are like a trade association. They'd had this domain for a year, decades. So that was not a fun Saturday night, but I did manage to get it back for them, but only because we could act quickly. If it had been Monday morning, so we'd been like 48 hours, however long after that, it could have been a different story. So, or if someone had just sort of poked around thinking, oh, the site will come back in a minute. So we then immediately added a domain checker to the integrity checks on here. So it will scream at you if your domain is not renewing, so you can check on it. And another one is I did an SEO audit for someone a little while ago, and they had a rubbish title tag. It was home. It was just home, which is like the worst thing, because if you only do one thing at all in the whole entire world, only one SEO thing on your website, make it be your homepage title tag. And I made them a really beautiful one. It was crafted. It's awesome. Really love this homepage title tag. They put it on the site, fine. And then last week, I get an email from Site Vitals saying that the title tag on this site, because I set them up on Site Vitals, I get an email from Site Vitals saying this title tag is too short. And I'm like, no, it's not. I made that title tag. It is beautiful. It is perfect. I love that title tag. Site Vitals must have got it wrong. Site Vitals is wrong. I'm going to have to tell Tom there's a bug in Site Vitals. So then I look at the site, and it had gone back to what it had been. They'd overwritten my beautiful, lovely title tag with home again. And so Site Vitals caught that. I got onto them. They changed it the same day. Great. No dip in what was happening in Google. Otherwise, they would have gone months later and said, oh, Lisa, you did another audit because this still isn't looking great or whatever. And it would have been because it shifted back or hadn't made its good progress that they had paid to do. They paid to have someone crack the title tag for them, and then they'd overwritten it. Obviously, they paid not just the title tag, there was more to it of what I did for them, but still that thing, it's so easily lost. Inside, it's all graphs, reports, and stats and tables, all laid out in easy to understand ways, or you can just rely on the updates you get that spoon feed you what needs doing. It's also a bit accidental, is that it's helpful as a competitor analysis, because it does have server checks and it does have scheduled jobs, so you're looking at things behind the scenes, but the majority of what it does is the outside looking in, looking at your website. So it's the same as if you went to a competitor's website every day and paid really close attention to what they were doing. So rather than do that, you set a competitor up in it, and then you get alerted when they start using a new booking engine, or when they shift their title tag and their whole content strategy seems to like shift, or what they're doing well and what they're not doing quite well. So yeah, really handy little bit of competitor analysis there. You know what you don't want to do? Oh, one other thing about that is that, did I say this already? I'm going to send around a promo code. Again, you will have had it by now, of in real time by the time I'm saying this, a promo code of getting some money off that if you sign up in the next 48 hours. It's a 2-day one. Right, but you know what you really don't want to do is you don't want to put loads of effort into AI, getting found by AI, and then ends up you're blocking robots. Because 18 months ago, that is kind of what everyone did. 18 months ago, everyone was worried that AI was just stealing all of our information, which was a valid concern. And lots of developers blocked robots, or lots of clients asked the developers to block AI from their websites. Now we had someone come to us and say, we just can't work out why AI were just not showing up. So we looked at their site and we don't know, well, it's because someone's like blocked robots from your site. That's why. So you can check if you're blocking robots. Usually it's yourwebsite.com/robots.text. It's in here. So when I pass that around, yourwebsite.com/robots.text. And in there, if you see things like disallow ChatGPT, disallow Googlebot, do not disallow Googlebot, my goodness. but it's that's what you're looking for, disallow, and then something that is sort of quite clearly say an agent name on it. Or you can check at Site Vitals. This is something I did say earlier, is that I really don't like doing the whole salesy thing, and I feel like it could come across like I have written this whole talk around the features of Site Vitals, but that is not what has happened. It happened the other way around, that I've written this talk about what is important for SEO and AI and generally looking after your website. But that is also what we have built Site Vitals to do. Site Vitals has been built from 20 years of knowing what is important. And so I literally even said to Claude, I was like, how do I put this together without it just sounding like a sales pitch all the way through? Do I just talk about Site Vitals at the end? And Claude said, no, you're right to mention it where it's relevant and where it comes up in conversation, or where it's relevant to what you're talking about. And yeah, what are you going to do? It's just a really useful tool. So I was like, thanks, Claude. Thanks, Claude, very much. So yeah, that's why I'm afraid it keeps being mentioned, because it keeps being relevant. Right, voice of experience. So what ChatGPT likes, and why it likes Reddit, and not just ChatGPT, but AI in general, is it likes the voice of experience, because AI isn't human and it wants to be human. It wants to, give that. It doesn't want to be human. It wants to give that a feel in its work. So ChatGPT did tell me it had fingers the other day, so that was weird, because it wrote something that didn't make sense, and I said, was that a typo? And he's like, yeah, my fingers. Yeah, it was just too weird. So if you can write things in the first person, and I appreciate this is a bit odd when you're talking about restaurants, but have in mind to try and write things in the first person, or say us and we, and just really lean into, or on LinkedIn, if you're on any other company blog, lean into what you're doing and what your experience has taught you and what you do differently and why you do what you do, because it's because of your human expertise, which leads us into EEAT. So if you have done any SEO before, you will have heard about EAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And these are the 4 things that Google really wants, but it's leaning into them even more heavily since March. This is a big problem of why so many sites fell off the radar, is because they weren't showing enough EEAT. So, and they were just light on content and stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is what you really need to lean into, and this is what AI wants as well. So because AI wants to be giving the right answers, and so it wants to know that it's getting the information from solid, harvested experts, so that it really believes that it's giving the right answers. So really keep EAT in mind for everything you write. Now, this was a quote from Neil Patel last year. You don't chase rankings. This is a different way to think about the content you're doing. You don't chase rankings. You build content for LLMs to reference. Even if your pages never break into the top 10, or even if this particular page never breaks into the top 10, the focus shifts from traffic to trust signals, clear formatting, semantic structure, and authoritative insights. So you might have your content that's for Google, your content to convert, and then you have these deeper pieces that are just for LLMs to get what they need to get from you. So how can EAT work for restaurants when you're not there talking about what you just did on someone's website title tag last week? So this is ChatGPT 2 giving me a nice infographic from some stuff I asked it to. And I've got a blog post going live with this next week as well, if you want to have a look at that. These are just some ideas. Showcase why your menu shines. What does it pair nicely with? Why is it so good? Why is it so tasty? What do people think about it? Then that also leads into the chef's story, but also not even necessarily the chefs, but the recipe creators. Who comes up with what you're doing? Yes, you're launching a new menu, and you say in your email that you're launching a new menu for summer, and it's got loads of light, refreshing tastes of inspired by barbecues or whatever. Bray, is it, in the South African barbecues? Maybe that's like an inspiration. Yeah, great. But then somewhere on your site, go deeper. Like, why did you choose those things? What is the chef's experience that made him think that was a good idea? Where did she used to work? So what ideas have influenced that? And why is she promoting this way of doing it? Why is he putting those flavors together? And why do those desserts lend themselves when you've got this on the main course menu? And also, where does food come from? So rather than just locally sourced and freshly made or whatever, go deeper somewhere. Go deeper into why you're using that particular butcher, or why that farm strawberries are the classic quintessential English strawberry, and what else they've done to make them, they also supply Wimbledon or something like that. And elevate local voices. So highlight, emphasize your origin story, how long you've been going. So that's your area of expertise, how long you've been going, any awards you've won, how many of you there are if you're a chain. So if there's lots of you, and then once you're talking about how many of you there are, we've told a restaurant this ages ago to try and do some like city guides for the areas you're in, and then sort of then you're hitting on the SEO of like, what do I do whilst I'm visiting Bristol Zoo? Because that is a big thing for AI now, is people were like planning itineraries with it. And we had an itinerary building tool that we were starting to build a couple of years ago, and then we just flagged it off because there's no point. We could see that ChatGPT was going to be doing that in no time. And it is. I used it the other day to plan a trip back from York to make it a road trip, and yes, it was all good. You do have to cross-reference everything. I've got a friend who's going to cycle around Nice and is relying on it for coffee shops. I was like, I want to do a little bit more research, but still, okay. But then use your local voices, use the people working in the restaurant to do that blog post about what is happening in York this weekend, or what is the best things to visit whilst you're in York. Maybe not this weekend, that might be a bit too often, but just some really, I've grown up here, I've lived here for 19 years, and this is what I really like, and this is what I'd really recommend you do. And if you've got kids, that's always the big one for me, is there, are there high chairs, is there a kid menu, all that sort of stuff. It also really lends itself to FAQs, and we'll mention FAQs later, but the whole high chair kid menu thing is important. I just mentioned awards and accreditations. This is the picture where the little side smile is like particularly awful, and since my husband mentioned it, I can't unsee it. But any awards and accreditations, make sure they're on your website and shout about them. And in AI profiles, you can mark them up in structured data as well. Right, chunk your content. So I don't like the term chunking. It makes me think of being sick, but it is to do with how you put your content together for AI. So you know when you go to a recipe website and there's like the author's life story of dullness before it gets to the ingredients, that is out, thank goodness. SEO, they just wanted you on the page and to get more links in to blow up their keywords. AI doesn't actually consume that much in one go. It wants little chunks of information that it can just read, get the point, and move on. So there's no waffling. I'm going to walk you through some of the bits. So as you write, don't make all the posts too formulaic. Keep it human with your natural voice showing through. And all that Google will like all of this as well, so it's a win-win. That clear headings and subheadings, so that's your header tags, H1s, H2s, H3s, etc. Clear opening line and a short paragraph that sums up the article. So this feels odd. This feels like a spoiler alert. This feels like a spoiler. You basically say at the beginning of the article what it's about, what you learned, and what you decided, your conclusion, 3 sentences at the beginning of the article. It doesn't have to be those 3 things I said, but just something really short at the beginning. Do you know the acronym TLDR, too long didn't read? It's kind of summing up at the beginning what the takeaway is, and that's good for AI. 1 idea per paragraph. Keep the text concise and clear. Don't bury information in waffly passages. Use bullet points and lists when suitable, because AI likes sort of seeing those steps. And also it helps humans as well, because humans like little chunks and lists. It thinks they can, different people like different forms. So if you have lots of different types of content on a page, so like videos and images and bullet point lists and paragraphs, it just suits more people. Include tables for comparisons or charts if it's nice and clear and visual, plus it's giving AI those tables they like. Include some FAQs, ideally with schema markup. So this is amazing because AI is answering questions, AI is, so it wants the FAQs so it can give the answers, gives you an amazing opportunity to go deeper with that information you're doing. We do a lot of SEO for a biomedical company, and oh my goodness, that's like the hardest sort of client to do SEO for because of all the regulations and stuff. But yeah, FAQs give a really good way to like get information into there, like what the surgeon in their case might be thinking. I know that's not relevant to you guys, but that's the point. FAQs, and if you go on that link is AI profiles again, but you can generate you some free FAQs. It will look at your site and go through it. But when I'm blogging, like on the thing that was almost an itinerary builder, is like a things to do website, and it so like one of the most visited terms to the website is something like, do kids need wellies for Lapland UK? Because I put it in the FAQs in a really good detailed post about Lapland UK. We haven't been. I interviewed a friend who went and got a blog out of it. So yeah, things like that, the little nitty gritty things, the FAQs, that's really good. Give summaries. So use phrases like to summarize or a common mistake. So because AI will be like, oh, common mistake, I want to know what that is. And break things up to step 1, step 2. Robots love structure. Keep your tone conversational because that will help for voice search, because people will just be talking into their search. And if you're answering a question, really do aim to give the very best answer to that question you can. This is a good quote. When optimizing content for AI and humans, you must get to the point early and optimize content to reduce cognitive load. So in your marketing, it's not how you market things to a human. You put the bit that's going to be interesting to them very early on, because otherwise you'll lose them before you get there. So in optimizing AI for content for AI and humans, you must get to the point early and optimize content to reduce cognitive load, because then we all just have a lot of cognitive load lately, always nowadays. This is a good example I found when I was researching overnight oats. This is Healthline. Question in the heading. That first little paragraph above the cityscape sale banner it sums it up. Raw oats are good for your gut but may cause indigestion. Just like I think it's 3 sentences. Boom, boom, boom. Then what are raw oats? Text with not long sentences. They might be a bit short, those sentences actually, and bullet points. Then on the last screenshot, you can see there's a summary box, and they have summaries at various points through the article. So it's not just one summary. After every sort of section, they're doing a little summary. I think that would take a long time to write. So I don't do this as much as I don't practice this completely what I preach, but it is on my sort of life to-do list to go through our 18O site and just make a few pages that are very much like this, just some key pages to really suit this. So I did all of that and worked out all that stuff and gave you the Healthline example and stuff. And then meanwhile, yesterday, Tom tells me that he's just upped the AI content analysis on Site Vitals. Sorry, Site Vitals again. But he wrote a really good blog post about it. And it's about, this is a machine, Site Vitals is the machine reading things as a machine would read and giving you feedback on basically when your paragraphs are too long, when your paragraphs are too short and your content is too thin, highlighting when you've got heading tags that you haven't put question marks in. So there's a link there to his blog post about how his AI content analysis actually analyzes the page and what it's looking for and what it's then finding. So you should do that, and or just in general, if you do one thing today, use the link I'll have sent you by now to do a free AI analysis of your site. Then I asked him, I went to find where he was last night because he was still working late last night. It's because he'd made a browser extension for it. So this is going to be available soon on Chrome. This is, and I think he's submitting it to Firefox as well. This is, you look at any page of your website and then the browser extension tells you if the content is lacking anything for AI, if you should be. So it flagged these 2 photos here because they had, the alt tags were too short because they were just Lisa and Tom, and the alt tag should be text to describe the picture. It was looking for something longer. So that is awesome. You can use it on any page then, not just pages you've got set up in Site Vitals and go through it. One thing Tom does say in the blog post that's very important and useful is that you don't need to worry about every page being optimized like this. This is like what I said before. Don't worry if your homepage gets a bad score, if that's not a page that is optimized for AI. You know, you might want it to get a good score, so great, you could look at that, but it's not the end of the world. If just look at the pages that you think you want AI to discover you on, that's giving all the good trust signals and that you want, that you can optimize well, but then have conversion stuff on there for people who do see it to click through to whatever you want them to do. Content has always been important for SEO, and it's super important for AI. And unfortunately, I've heard people talking about like the end of evergreen content. So those blog posts that you wrote that would stand the test of time, people like big SEO companies, and I mean like the tools like Ahrefs and Wix, actually, I think people I went to a talk by. So Wix is an SEO company, I know, but a big company, saying that evergreen might be disappearing, and it's more about updating the content regularly and keeping these good blog posts alive by refreshing them. Fresh content is important. So span, see where they go. March's updates for Google, did I say this already? They were search updates, but before the search updates, they did spam updates. And See, what's really weird is when I know I've said something, but did I say it in this call or did I say it in the one that was literally just before this? In website world, you can get people with not so nice content who pay people with very highly regarded websites to let them put whatever they want on their website, like in a little mirror, a little, iframe or something. And that's been really clamped down on, because then they're just piggybacking the domain, the ranking authority of this page. Probably not in an iframe, because then it wouldn't mirror it, it wouldn't be indexable. So yeah, if you are placing content on other people's websites, and even if it's, you're not sure if it's quite what I'm talking about, drop me an email and ask me if it's what I'm talking about. But no, if you are, but you probably aren't, because this is a bit extra devious, but they're just clamping down on some websites building a good presence and then charging lots of money to not so nice, like payday loans or whatever, to appear there. And the other thing they're clamping down on is something that people have always done, which is if a domain expires, like visitcambridge.com expires, someone buys it, writes some content about Cambridge, which is so easy nowadays, puts it all on, keeps the website hosted and looking like it's about Cambridge, and then sneaks on some links to themselves. That it is possible. You've got an SEO agency doing that for you. If it was something about like where to eat in the UK.com and it was littered with like ads for you, that could be classed as spam now if it's not bringing like good, genuine use. So you might want to evaluate that and decide what you think about that. But these were spammy things that they cut down on, and this would have had a big impact on those numbers. You know, when we said like 1 in whatever it was, 4 in 10 well, the stat about falling out of the top 100 places, falling down into being not even in the top 100 when you were in the top 10. So Google reviews, I'm going like bleary mouthed. Google reviews. This will be relevant for you guys, I think, if you ask for Google reviews. I haven't heard the TripAdvisor are doing this yet. This is Google. But you can't just ask for positive reviews. So I normally say at the end of a talk, if you liked it today, please leave me a review. But I can't say that, because I can't say if you liked it, because I can't just ask for positive ones. This new set of rules, by the way, really screws me over, because we make websites for people that we, you know, it'll be a big project, so it'll be a few months. And then we'll work with that person for years. So I might only ask them for like 1 review, or I probably will forget anyway. So we don't get a lot of reviews. But when we do get a few reviews is when I've done a talk and lots of lovely people leave reviews, which is great. And I don't want you not to do that, because I think Google will sort this out. So I still want the reviews more than I don't. But it just means that we will be in this boat of having like an influx on one day and then nothing for a month. But I hope Google will be able to notice the difference between understanding that sometimes that happens. Sometimes you run an event and you're not just paying 50 people somewhere to like just write little silly reviews all from overseas IP addresses or something. The next thing, you shouldn't name particular people. Again, screws me over, because the comments we often get are, great talk today by Lisa. Can't name particular people. And why this is important for you is that where that probably comes from, it's thought is like, say a waitress, 17-year-old waitress, gets a job at Jamie Oliver and puts on a college WhatsApp group, hi everyone, can you leave me a really good review on our Google listing so that the boss thinks I've got off to a really good start? Which obviously that's not on. And it also, I mean, they're not genuine. And also, if you are in any way incentivizing your employees and saying like anyone who gets named in a good review gets a little bonus, you've got to stop doing that, because you can't have people named in reviews. And if you think anyone is doing it just because they want to get named and they want to look good, you should send around a memo and say, if you're noticing names come up in reviews, you should send around a memo and say, yeah, please don't ask the people on your tables to mention your name in reviews. Don't say, hi, I was Lisa, I was your server today. In that way that you want to push your name forward. You still want to be human, so it's still nice to introduce yourself. And if someone does use your name, well, you can't help that. These are genuine reviews. You can't help what someone says in it. But just make sure that your team are not pushing it and trying to get their name mentioned in it. I shouldn't ask people to mention keywords. So all of my reviews will say, great talk about SEO. But I haven't asked anyone to say that. That's just natural. That's just how it is. So that's just fine. But don't ask people to say, it was a brilliant talk about SEO and AI, or, don't spoon feed what people should say. This one could be important for you. You shouldn't get all reviews left from one IP address or device. So if you go around after a meal with a tablet and say, please could you leave a Google review? Nuh-uh, you can't do that anymore, because it would all be from the same iPad or tablet, and it would all be on the same IP address. You can, if you email people afterwards, great, because they'll be doing it at home. Or if you even give them a QR code in the restaurant still, they could scan it, and at least that will be a different device, even if it's on your Wi-Fi. If you haven't got Wi-Fi, then it's totally cool, because it'll be a different network and a different device. So I think just be wary of, if you're a hotel and you've got like an iPad at reception, you ask people for a review before they leave, you can't really do that anymore. Really, that was what I meant to say about the shouldn't gain loads in one day. Don't do it like email every 6 months. If you visited us in the last 6 months, we'd love a review. That will be more of a bulk load. Whereas if you, after every booking, you emailed them the next day and said, would you like to leave us a review? Then that's going to be more of a slow, steady trickle, which is what Google wants. And you shouldn't incentivize reviews, which again, I have done innocently. I haven't wanted a fake review ever, but I feel bad asking people for their time and their effort to do anything for me. So to come to Google and to leave a good review, I really, really appreciate that. I feel like that's an ask on someone's time. And so if I then want to say, and like, then I won't charge you for that last update or something, I want to be able to do that. But I shouldn't, because I shouldn't incentivize it. So you can't incentivize it with your people anyway. You can't email someone and say, thanks for coming in today. If you enjoyed your meal, please send us a Google review and email us a screenshot, and then we'll give you a 10% voucher for next time. You can't do that. ChatGPT ads, because everyone was asking me about these back in the day, in February, and I wrote an article about 5 things marketers need to know in 2026 about ChatGPT ads. So I'm refreshing that article, coming out next week, hopefully, with an update on them. But in a nutshell, we now know what the ads will look like. They will look like ads. They are not just mentioned in the suggestion text in the answer, because people are worried about that. The self-serve platform is coming soon. At the moment, it still is this very small group of advertisers, and it's all like manually done by some account handler or developer at OpenAI. I don't know, but there's no like logging into Facebook ads yet. Academic research shows that AI response can be skewed towards more expensive recommended answers. So it's kind of like, yeah, OpenAI need to watch that, and they need to work on that, because it's a little bit fixed at the moment. They need to remain impartial. OpenAI are keen to retain trust and compete against Anthropic's stance on ads. So they're keen to push that they're giving people control. I asked ChatGPT about ChatGPT ads, because I thought they were a good person. That was a good person to ask. Good thing to ask. So I felt like what I was getting was a bit biased. I was like, oh, it's so good with all the controls we give. The UK will be soon, but I reckon that's going to be 2027, because next on their list is New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. And we would be after that in the European wave. And apparently we've got a lot more regulations and stuff. You can do anything you want in America, but it's going to be harder for them to get it all sorted out over here. So what might be next in general? Google pushing AI in video. Google have this issue that it's not just us that are worried about being phased out. We like websites that need clicks and visitors. Google doesn't want to get phased out, because all the young people are using TikTok, and young people are doing this, and young people want videos. And when you look at the graphs of who's reading most, it's the older people generations that are using Google still. The stats aren't as, I've read some shocking articles, and then when you look at the stats, it's like, well, that's not so bad, but there is a trend there that Google isn't appealing in the same way to the younger audiences. So they're going to be pushing video in their search results. So think about video, and they're also trying to keep you in their AI for longer, keep you chatting. So I don't know if you've seen this thing where currently Google are doing a split screen thing. I haven't personally seen it yet. I've just seen people posting about it, where you Google your thing, you get your results, you've got the suggested links there from the AI overview. You click on one. This is what I think is happening. The pane moves that way, and you see 2 panes. So you've got your Google search chat still there, and you've got the website there. So you haven't actually visited the website wholly. It's just showing in a window. That makes it a lot quicker to just flick between the other websites and change what you're seeing here. So people might not be digging around. So you've got to really grab them quick. There's also this picture, by the way, is not actually of Google's. ChatGPT made me this picture. So I thought that was pretty good, really. Another problem our clients have got, who are like publishers and things, are being less reliant on clicks, because the amount of clicks is just going to keep going down, especially because, I don't know if you heard, that in January Google filed a patent to potentially put an AI overview. If someone sees you in Google search results, they click on you, they would then get to an AI generated page generated by Google rather than go to your website. And Google say they would do that if they felt that they knew more about that user than you did, so they would be able to put forward a better spiel and present you better than you were doing yourself. I think that is, don't quote me, but that's like the point behind it, I think. So my understanding of it. So that's a whole other thing I'd love to talk to you all about another time, about design, where that leaves design and human actual like design, provoking what people actually feel when they see something that's nice. So yeah, so that's all happening. So it doesn't mean that you won't still get discovered, but the whole T-Pain thing as well might mean you need to do more on whatever page anyone lands on. You need to be grabbing attention, because they're going to be clicking to another page. Make sure you say the important stuff immediately and clearly. Agentic AI. So ChatGPT, Claude, these are generative AIs. They generate stuff for you, pictures, text, whatever, ideas even. But agentic AI is agents. It's doing stuff for you. So an example is, if you were running late for a meeting because I've talked too long, you would say to ChatGPT, like, if you're in your meeting, you're like, Chatty, just write me an email to send to the person that I'm going to be late for, and you copy and paste it and send it off. Fine. Agentic AI is whoever you use. You've got Claude sat in your browser or whatever, and Claude's looking at your calendar, and Claude sees that you are in a meeting, you're running late for the next one. So I don't know if it would be Claude, whatever, whoever. The AI would email the person you were going to be late to and tell them you were going to be late, and you hadn't done anything. You hadn't done it all from watching your calendar. That's agentic AI. That is coming. It is coming, and your website needs to be ready for it. And this was my sort of way of thinking about it, is that in the moment we're about, I'm not a robot, but your website going to be usable by robots, not just read and trawled and indexed by robots, but usable by robots. They've got to be able to book a table. They've got to be able to send an inquiry through that form. They've got to be able to use the search bar to find the location near the person they're searching for. So when that comes, who knows exactly. ChatGPT last year, we're very excited to announce ChatGPT shopping, so that you could buy stuff directly through ChatGPT. But a couple of months ago, they rolled it back again. They took it back because it was all like, oh yeah, 1 million shops with Shopify. It's going to be great. This is how people are going to be buying stuff now. But the merchants apparently just weren't quite ready for it. They didn't have stuff in place their end. The technology was just tricky for like the hooking up of payments and making it all safe and secure and making sure it was all easy and seamless and the right people got the right money. And the public just weren't quite convinced about it yet. The public aren't really quite there with just giving their money to ChatGPT and buying something that they haven't seen, So you've got the top of Microsoft saying that white-collar jobs will be gone in 18 months, but it's easy to get so caught up in this bubble that we're in marketing and web and everything, that it's all happening right now. And then you do the school run and you talk to people who realise that, yeah, they're not using it. They're a long way off it yet, just because it's not in their world. So not they won't be very capable to do it, but just that it might take longer than the people who are in the heart of it think for the rest of the world to really fully take it on. I'm doing an upcoming series of talks, though, about the agentic web and making and selling websites in 2027. So it's covering all sorts of stuff about what's coming next, what you need to know, but also about, like, should you get Claude to make your website? Should you be using Canva for this and that? And just, going the next step of everything website, basically. So there's a QR code there if you want to, like, sign up early doors. This is the checklist that I've mentioned. So I'll send you this. It's got links in there to everything we've talked about. If you've got any questions, please do send them to me. You can also follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram. I will come and find you, hunt you down on LinkedIn and give you a follow. So if you get a random little request, that's me. And yeah, I try to post useful, helpful stuff. Like this was last week, 5 really useful things you can do with Google Search Console data. And I'm not going to say, if you found this useful, I would love a review. I'm just going to say, if you could leave a review, that would be great. Thank you. But not for me. Don't mention me say to me or market in the third person, or I don't know. I don't want to spoon feed people and put anyone off saying anything. I'm sure Google doesn't want either. But yeah, just trying to stick to the new guidelines. So thank you ever so much for your time, and I will send around, because I have already sent around the 48-hour, which feels so salesy, but I'm just trying it, promo code thing, and I will send around this recording when it is ready. Thank you. Bye.